Let's get started by talking about the NMEA 2000 connector. Here's what you get in the bag. The connector itself, the connector body, strain relief, grommet, and nut. And it's got the strip dimensions right here on the bag. It tells you to strip it to 20 millimeters and strip 5 millimeters of bare wire showing. And it tells you to cut the blue wire 6 millimeters shorter. That's true for this connector. However, other connectors, such as the right angle version of the same connector, not true. The dimensions are different. So what do we do about that? We look at the connector and we understand what's going on with it. When we put the thing on, we want this strain relief part. This part right here is a strain relief. As this tightens down, it causes it to be waterproof. So where do we want this thing to grab? Do we want it to grab back here, right here, right here? Well, we want it to grab up here as close as possible. Then we can simply look at the connector, understand it, and strip the correct dimensions. So if you notice, this is the correct strip dimensions for the straight connector, but look, the right angle connector, slightly longer. So we have to give room for this thing to be able to do that on the right angle connector, and on the straight connector, you don't need that extra couple of millimeters. So rather like the strip dimensions, you can get the assembly instructions right off the bag. You put the nut on, you put the strain relief on there, you put the grommet on there, and then you put the connector body on there. This connector body could go on there either way, but these threads need to be up here so that it's going to mate with this. So we do that first, get all this put on our wire, and then we strip this off to these correct dimensions. Let's go through that. So we start with a cut-off wire, because we cut our other connector off, or we got this wire off of a bulk spool. And we simply have a cut-off wire, which we need to bare. So the first thing we want to do is strip back about 20 millimeters of bare cable back of the outer sheath and the shields, get rid of all that stuff. And inside we'll find 5 conductors. Our drain wire, this is a bare wire, our red and black, and our blue and white. That's our 12 volts and ground and our data high, data low. So now that we've cut them to 20 millimeter length, now we want to strip about 5 millimeters of bare wire off the front. So we just use the correct die and strip about 5 millimeters. That's about 5 millimeters right there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to crimp ferrules onto each of these cables. So ferrules are little metal sleeves that give us a much better insertion into the connector. So this little ferrule goes on there like that, and we crimp it on the end like that. And we got the ever so little bit of wire sticking out the front of that guy. We just cut that little bit off. So there we have the first pin on there. So let me put pins on these other 4. Once it's pinned like this, it's perfect for insertion. I screwed up because I have to cut the blue wire. Note the blue wire has to be shorter than the other 4 wires, quite a bit shorter. So they say trim an extra 7 millimeters off the blue wire. All right, so now that we've got our wire prepped and we got our 5 wires with the ferrules on them, we have to put a piece of heat shrink on the bare wire, because the bare wire hooks up right here where the gray is, and that's the blue screw right there. The bare wire goes right by there. It shorts out the blue connection. So we take a little piece of heat shrink and put it over the bare wire like this. Right length of heat shrink, hopefully. So now we're prepped. We got our bare wire, blue wire's cut short. I always put the blue wire in last. So basically, you need to take and turn these screws out about 3.5 turns. They're pretty far to go to get them to come out and clear that barrel. So I always just run all the screws out all at once. Some people do it one at a time. Personal preference. A lot of this stuff is how do your hands work. So we run them out. Now we're going to stick them in. Start with the white wire. Make sure it's fully inserted in there. You should not have any metal showing at the top right here. Should not have metal sticking up here. Should be all the way in like that. And then we tighten our screw down. And you can feel it when it first touches, then you're making a dimple in that thing. And once you've dimpled it, it's in there for good. Very strong connection. Now here's our black wire next. Black wire. Simply go in there. Get it to go down in the barrel. And then tighten the screw. Once it's done right, it ain't never coming out. Here goes our red wire. Go all the way in. And our screen, our shield, which we put the heat shrink over. Goes in there. There's our shield. And then the last one is the blue one. Just put that in the top. Tighten down the blue screw. So it's very important that we don't have a bunch of excess shield or foils here that are going to come up here and touch this blue wire. This is very close clearance to the blue wire, so we want to make sure that all these shields are really well trimmed there. Next, we're going to put this connector body on here. So this is really cool because this spins independent of this, which spins independent of the inside black thing. So there's two different pivots here. And what that means is I can do this and I'm not twisting the wire. See, I can go all the way in. Very important that you go all the way in with these connectors so there's no gap, so you have an IP67 rated connection. So we slide our grommet down here, get that thing seated in there a little bit, get it down in there a bit. We slide our strain relief piece, our compressor, if you will, down in there. Get that to go around the grommet a little bit. Push that down in there. And then we come with our nut. And get our nut in there, start it in there. This thing does get tight towards the end. You really can't do it with your hand. You notice they have a flat here to grab it with. Usually you can grab that flat with your finger and just take a crescent wrench. Now when you start getting all the way to tight here, sometimes it starts to grab the wire. So you really don't want to twist this wire around. There we go. So yeah, so once this thing is fully assembled, this thing should spin freely. This should be fully seated. We've accomplished IP67 waterproofness. So this is a beautiful connector. It'll last forever. Thanks for coming. That's our NMEA 2000 connector training. Remember, connectors matter. Safety of life at sea depends on this. Please be careful to put your connectors on properly. I'll see you at the next NMEA training video.